Welcome to this weekly webinar, Ending the Year in Wisconsin. If you are part of our Wisconsin school, or if you're a member of our Wisconsin schools, I thank you for joining us today. And we're covering all those WISE data processes that you would take care of at the end of the school year. I am joined by Greg Gilman today. Greg, do you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody.
Greg Gilman is lead developer at JMC. He is kind of the one that's taking the charge in most state reporting ventures for Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. Works with a lot of our clients as far as state reporting is concerned. My name is Jake Vanscoy. I am the head of training here at JMC, located out of Eastern Iowa, which is a stone's throw away from Wisconsin. I can be there within the hour, but um, nonetheless, today we are talking about your end of the year submission. So at the end of the school year, Wisconsin schools submit key data to the Department of Public Instruction through WISE data to ensure compliance and support funding, accountability, and reporting requirements. End of year reporting elements include enrollment, attendance, discipline, graduation, and special education data. Accurate and timely submission helps schools meet state requirements and maintain essential services. As always, we have that Q&A feature built right into RingCentral. If you have any questions, please chime through those and we can help you out as we go here. As I mentioned at the top, this is a pretty quick and painless process as far as end of year submission, and primarily your end of year submissions, updating those student records, those graduation records at the end of the year for comparison purposes to the stuff that you've been submitting throughout the year. So submitting end of year data in JMC Office involves updating records in the DPI's WISE data portal so the state has the most current school and student information on file. By clicking through a simple series of steps and resolving any data errors that appear, your school can confidently meet the state's end of year reporting requirements. In JMC Office, we're going to head to Wisconsin WISE data end year to work through the process for submitting end year data to the DPI. So again, we're Wisconsin WISE data end year. And many of you that have gotten to this point have probably already accomplished the start year and the during year processes. So if you've reached this point, this end year process is going to be no different. You're basically going to work across these tabs, left to right and top to bottom in order. So step one is click the checklist tab and then place a check mark in the appropriate checkboxes to indicate that you have completed the listed item. So you can read the text of the page. You work starting all the way to your left, the checklist tab. Make sure you've done the things that you need to complete before submitting that end of the year data, and then move on to the tables tab. So step two, you click the tables tab and then click the first enabled button to update your JMC database from the corresponding DPI code tables. So the tables tab is bringing in information from the DPI. Things, descriptors, LEAs, all that information, you work top to bottom and note the timestamps on each of these. If there is no timestamp or it's been a while, it doesn't hurt you at all to start from the beginning and go top to bottom and update those so it has the most recent and current up-to-date information. Then you move, continuing on left to right, you move to the General tab. So step three, click the General tab and then click the first enabled button to update data submission elements related to your general school data. So all of these are general school data elements that you submit one at a time. When you run into errors, if you run into errors, you're going to get an error report. Fix any errors displayed on this WISE data end year summary, and then repeat steps 3 and 4 until all school data has successfully updated. So the real key here is when you click that first enabled button, you get this error report. Don't just move on to the next button until you have fixed the errors that are listed on that page. Handy tool here, or helpful tip, click that print summary button to print the summary for reference while fixing data errors And then you can click cancel to return to the page, but printing that summary will allow you to easily reference this error or the error messages as you go back into the program and fix those things. And then you can return to that end of year submission page and pick up where you left off. Once you have all of the items taken care of on that general tab, you'll click the students tab. And here you're going to view instructions for submitting student data to the DPI. In this case, you're going to go to Wisconsin WISE Data Update Students by Grade Level, and you'll submit your students by grade level, and we'll show you that here in just a minute and kind of explain as we take you through the live look why you would do it by grade level. Step 6. Click this would be after you have submitted your student information. You're going to click the graduation requirements tab and click the send graduation requirements button to update student graduation submission requirements. Again, fix any errors as needed. And then step 7, click the parents tab and click the first enabled button to update parent data submission elements. So helpful tip for any support or for additional support, send PDFs, any of your error summaries to support@jmcinc.com for help diagnosing and fixing errors. So the key once you get to the submission portion of the state reporting process, the key is to work in order, left to right, top to bottom, and fix errors as they pop up. A lot of times, submissions require clean data to be submitted from prior elements before you can just move on. So I'd caution you against, and actually it's more than caution, you're not going to get very far in your data submissions if you just move through the buttons without fixing the errors. So let's take a live look at the end of year data submission. This is really it. This is what it amounts to. I'm going to head to Wisconsin, WISE Data, end year. So Wisconsin, WISE Data, end year. And you'll notice I've already worked through this. We've done this a few different times, but starting left to right, that checklist tab, I'm going to go through each of these check boxes and make sure that what's listed here has actually been completed. So the first piece on there, I'm going to head to Edit Mass Change Fields. This is Edit Mass Change Fields, this page right here. And we are going to give all seniors or 12th grade students a graduation date as appropriate, as well as high school completion credential of R. So the mass change fields, you can use this graduation date and change this for all students in 12th grade, and also give them a completion credential as well. So this will point you, if you read the text on the page, it's going to point you to where to go and what to do for each of those items. Next one there, manually edit the students that should be different from that mass change field. So the mass change field is your shortcut to entering student data for those seniors. If you have a senior that did not graduate or received a different credential as listed, you would change those individually. Then you would head to Wisconsin year-end mass exit students. This must be done in each building, one grade level at a time. You'll mass exit those students. Once you've made sure that that's completed, you'll use Wisconsin WISE Data, update students by grade level to update all students. And that's something that we're going to do here when we get to the students tab anyway, and then finish the remaining tabs on this page. So that's the checklist of items that you need to complete. Greg, do you have anything to add about the checklist tab?
No, if you follow this checklist top to bottom, and if it tells you to do something, take care of that, take care of business, and it should take care of you.
Absolutely. So moving on to that tables tab. So after I've taken care of everything right here, I move on to my tables tab. I click the first enabled button. So what we mean by enabled is if it's not grayed out, you'd have to click that first one before you can move to anything that might be grayed out or disabled. Here you can see the timestamps. So you note that I've done this fairly recently. I've got 5-7 today. I can continue on and update all local education agencies. It might take a minute, but it's just going to give you a summary of the data that it has updated. You cancel that summary, move back to that tables page, and then move right down. The timestamps are there to help you keep track of what you have done and what you have yet to do, in addition to the disabled buttons. So you're actually pulling data from the state into your system with that tables tab. Moving on to the general tab, this is where you're actually submitting some data to the state. So working through these buttons top to bottom, send calendar to the state, and you're going to see a page similar to this. It'll let you know how many errors you have, if you have any errors. And then actually on this page, and if I print the summary, it's a little bit easier to read, that PDF version. It will tell you exactly where in the program you need to go and what you would need to do. So if you have a data element missing or an item missing for a grade level, but potentially, or for a course, it will be listed on that error summary. So the idea is you take this, maybe even print it off, and then you go back into the program wherever you would need to go. If it tells you, to go to the calendar page, for example, I can go to attendance, calendar days, and add year end or start year. Hopefully by now you have your calendar taken care of. So if you receive any errors, you're unsure what those errors are, that's when you can reach out to us at training or support at jmcinc.com. We can help get you taken care of. So Greg, anything to add about I gotta get back to where I was here, and year. Anything about the general tab?
Yeah, it's unlikely you'll have a lot that needs to be submitted here, but it's a good idea to do it anyway, just in case you've had a few mid-year, end-year things that have come up. Just a good practice to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point. This is where I would stress too. This is why you keep up with your state reporting as the year goes. You keep clean data in your system. You fix errors through that start year and during school year process, because by the time you get to that end year, this should just be a matter of simply clicking through buttons and submitting that end of year data. You shouldn't have a ton of errors at this point, but as Greg mentioned, you might have one or two things that could have changed throughout the year. And if you missed a field or something like that, you might have to go back and enter some data or change data as needed. So the next piece, and I believe this is also on the checklist tab, but once you get to the students tab, if you haven't already done so, you're going to be prompted to go to Wisconsin WISE Data, update students by grade level. So right below the end year tab, update students by grade level. And we are going to submit student level data. And it's best to do this by one grade at a time, because there's a lot of data that it is pushing, and depending on the size of your school, the bigger your school, obviously, the more data you're going to have. We do have the ability to submit all grades at one time. I would caution against this because you could run into some network timeout errors or some timeout issues that would prevent that data from being sent. So if you'd rather not spin wheels and you'd rather go one grade at a time, that's probably the best practice. Select the grade level, click this update students by grade level button, and the same process here. It's going to let you know if you have any errors. It's going to let you know what those errors are. You can print the summary, and then you go back into the program and find where you need to, or what you need to change specifically. I think in addition to the update students by grade level, when you run into an error for an individual student, you can update that individual student rather than submitting grade level data again. So as we mentioned, the same with the general tab items. Students probably no different. If you had somebody that was new to your district since you're during your submission, you might run into some errors for an individual student. You fix those errors, and then you can update that individual student over time. So, see, there's a question here. I'm going to pull this up. Tammy's asking, any suggestions? Entering 12th graders graduation date is a week before the last day of school. Do we enter the graduation date or the last day of school? When you mass exit 12th graders, it will use the last day of school. This will create an error stating graduation date and end date need to be the same. Greg, did you understand that question, or need me to reread?
I did. I heard the question. I'm trying to think. Well, the graduation date. What is Tammy saying about that, by the way?
So the graduation date is a week before the last day of the school year. And then when the last day of the school year does not match up with the graduation date, Tammy's getting an error stating that they don't match, or that they need to be the same.
Mhm.
Would there be any, I mean, you could probably consult with the DPI to make sure that there isn't going to be an issue. Do we need to make the end of year date that same date as the graduation date for seniors on the calendar page?
I'd have to look into that. That doesn't really make sense to me because a graduation date is typically on a weekend, and that wouldn't be a school day.
Sure.
I'd have to look closer at the actual error message and the details to give a good answer to that.
Okay. Tammy, would you mind sending that PDF to, you can just send it to training@jmcinc.com, and we'll take a look at what's going on with that. All right, great question here. Moral, I'm gonna keep moving. Okay, so Tammy responds, you know what, Tammy, is this gonna be easier if I give you the ability to talk? Can I just give you the ability to talk? You okay with that? Give me a thumb up if you're okay with that. All right, give me one sec here. Oh, you declined the invitation. Try that again. Okay, we might be having some technical issues with that. I don't think I've. Oh, no, Mike. Gotcha. No worries. No worries. Follow-up question there. We make the graduation date the last day of school. And that works with that submission. Then I'm assuming when you make the graduation date the last day of school, it just wouldn't necessarily be true. So I guess we could, is that something that we can replicate, Greg, without forcing her to change graduation dates just to make the data submission go?
I mean, if she can get by with the data submission with that, it doesn't make sense to me to call it a graduation date, but it's actually the last day of the school year. I would need more details. I would need to look into it before I can really give an answer to that question.
Yeah. So, Tammy, I don't know if you have submitted your end of year stuff yet, or if you would mind just to give us the heads up as to what it looks like. Change that graduation date to the actual graduation date, try to submit, and then send us the PDF of the errors. And then from there, after you've sent us the PDF of the error, then we'll have a chance to look at it at least. And then if your fix is to go about making the graduation date the last day of school and then resubmitting so you're error free and so that your reporting is done, I'm not gonna criticize or tell you, yes, that's what you should do. I'll leave that up to you to decide. But then at least we'll have an idea of what to do.
And keep in mind, Jake, that her end of year snapshot isn't until December, so we have plenty of time to take a look at that.
Gotcha. All right. So she is going to do that for us. Appreciate that, Tammy. All right. Great. All right. So I'm going to go back to the end year page. So we've submitted student level data. You'd work through each of your grade levels, just like we talked about here, and then move on to your graduation requirements. This would be as simple as clicking a button, send your graduation requirements to the state. If there are any errors, fix it, cancel summary, return it, and move on to your parents tab. Your parents tab, there are a couple buttons there. You click those buttons in order, send parents all buildings. If there are any errors, you fix those errors, and if not, cancel out of that summary and move back to that parents tab and submit your final. So in this case, I have several errors because my data doesn't really count. But Greg, anything to add about that end of year submission process? Really pretty simple, and especially if you've been keeping up with your state reporting as you go here, should be nothing to it.
You know, you would have probably submitted parent data at the start of the year. And if you work through errors at that point, it would be things like, address information incomplete, phone number not included, something like that. Phone number didn't look right. So if you work through that at the start of the school year, at the end of the school year, mostly you're probably looking at doing that same thing for parents of students who came mid-year. It shouldn't be that much, but again, that assumes that you work through the errors at the start of the year for parent data at that time.
That's a great point, and it kind of gives me another best practice up here. We have these alerts in the upper right-hand corner, and a lot of times folks update their information as the year goes on. Maybe they got a new phone number, maybe they have a new address. Make sure that any of those parent contact submissions or any of those contact submissions have been updated. Click through those, accept or reject any of those changes. I'm just going to go through and reject these because they don't really look like much. Somebody probably testing out our registration process. And that's going to get the most up-to-date information from your families. Your families are responsible for, in many cases, submitting their contact information, including addresses, phone numbers, all that sort of stuff. So do that, and you should be good to go. So if there aren't any more questions, we can get into JMC news and upcoming events. Remaining webinar schedules for the month of May include back to school registration, speak of the devil, setup and data collection on the 14th, and then our work session will be on the 21st. So if you are thinking about next year and you use back to school registration, which we would highly recommend you do so that your families can take charge of your data and save yourself some time on the back end entering that data. Take a look at what that process entails. We've got a couple webinars back to back that will go through all of the processes there. The 28th of May, we're going through a checklist to how to close out the school year in JMC, not necessarily from a state reporting perspective, but just some general best practices to kind of button up the school year in JMC and prepare yourself for the successful start of next school year. First week of June, we are previewing our summer conference, letting you know what is cool and going on in Plymouth, Minnesota, and Ankeny, Iowa here in the middle of June. Speaking of the summer conference, tickets are available. As mentioned, we're in Minnesota on the 18th of June and in Iowa on the 20th of June. If your school has the most attendees, you'll win a pizza party for your building. So register your team today. A lot of great stuff for users of all levels. We've got some great beginner and novice level maker spaces. We're looking forward to hosting you at those events. Want to test drive JMC's general store and experience how the portal can lighten the load of managing school merch, ticketing, and fundraising, all without paying a dime for the portal training and support? Then please email sales with your request to test general store when it launches in June. We have a kind of a soft launch in June with our the schools that want to give this a run to go. If that fits your needs, let us know and we'll get you set up for that. It's almost time to turn on JMC's online registration. Tune in to May 14th and May 21st for our sessions there that we mentioned just a second ago, from enabling district and building level settings to creating crystal clear health questions. Then we'll follow up and work through the process and answer your questions on the 21st. Do you know of a school staff member who is retiring and knows our software like the back of their hand? They might make the perfect client services specialist at JMC, where they'll get to provide one-to-one care to customers just like you. Feel free to share the job description with them. Greg, I appreciate you joining me today. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for choosing JMC. And we will catch you on the flip side.
Thanks, Jake.